Fun. Let's go.
And away we go. Shut the laptop lid halfway so it looks like you're working and give us your full attention. It's time for the pickup meeting. I'm Kevin Thomas, joined always by the man who has never met a silence he didn't try to fill. It's Brody Broshears.
That's 100% true.
It is. I thought about just being real silent there to see what would happen and see how long it would be before you filled it, but it is true.
I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of my mom because that's really terrible on a podcast that's going to go out to hundreds of listeners potentially. But my mom is just like that as well.
She fills the silence?
Oh yeah, she'll talk. I mean, an entire 4-hour car ride, she's talking the whole time.
Yeah, I know that you will fill the silence. I reflect back on our time with our guests when we were sitting outside in Orlando, and someone asked you, I think our good friend Dana asked you, Brody, how you doing? Yeah. And by the time 20 minutes later went, you did not never tell her how you were doing.
Yeah, as a reminder, my dad had just died.
Oh,
I had started a new job. I mean, there were lots of things going on, to be fair.
There were. You're right.
But yes, it's true. Since that moment, I've tried to be better at answering questions. I don't know if I've succeeded or not.
Yeah, you're getting better at it. That's why you're doing a podcast now, so that you ask the questions and don't answer them.
Yeah, maybe by the time I retire, I'll be good at answering questions.
For our audience today, we are recording in a unique time frame, and I think that's worth mentioning because Old Man River here is really concerned about going to bed. And so that brings us to our topic of conversation, which is sleep. Brody, did you get any sleep last night?
I did not get much sleep last night.
Yeah, you had some issues with an animal, and that happens. But now it's almost 9:00, and you are ready to go to bed.
I am, but I'm going to soldier through like any good professional would do. You know, we honor our commitments. I think that's wonderful, and I'm super excited to be here.
We are recording today, and this is a little behind the scenes, if you will. We typically will record really early in the morning or later in the day, while Monday through Friday. And today, that's not happening. Today, it is recording. Our guest is in Hawaii. And so we are recording a little later for us to get this wonderful guest to you all. And so that's causing a little bit of goofiness on our end, I think, because we've never done this before.
I'm really shocked that we've never recorded at night.
Yeah. Well, normally you're playing Fortnite, and I think that's your sleep issue. That's why you're not sleeping as well, because you're just all jacked up on Fortnite things.
It could be true. Hey, I just watched the first episode of Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso's playing Fortnite with his kid. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. You're right. You are pretty cool. That's what I'm getting from this conversation.
Absolutely.
You and Ted Lasso, same guy.
Same guy. Absolutely.
You probably actually know soccer better than he does.
I do. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah.
But I probably don't know acting better than he does.
No, or darts.
Or darts. I was a pretty good darts player.
I'm still going to go with or darts.
That sounds fine.
Hey, as one of our opening topics today, I thought let's have a little rant and get into some things. And this is a topic that you really like a lot. And I guess I really like a lot too. But let's talk music real quick. And audience, if you're tired of hearing us talk about music, I apologize. But this is a little more specific. What are music genres you love or love to hate?
Well, I love British alternative music, like new wave, college rock from the late 80s, early 90s, anything in that genre I'm addicted to still, totally. I really like alternative country, which is kind of a different version of country.
Wait, what is alternative country?
It's country that's not on the radio.
Okay.
I mean, it's great stuff. kind of born from the no depression movement. So bands like Uncle Tupelo, Sunvolt, Wilco, some great, like Belinda Carlisle might be considered Americana or alternative country, something like that. Isbell, some famous folks, but if you listen to country music on the radio, you don't know who those folks are automatically.
Yeah, from a genre standpoint, I like it all, kind of.
You do?
I do like all music. I would say the one that I'm not a big fan of is whatever today's country is, bro country, pop country.
Yeah.
I just refer to it as garbage country.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And I think every generation has that. I can remember even in the 90s that people would say, Tim McGraw and Garth Brooks and Tracy Lawrence and that crew, they're not country. And well, now you look at them and they're pretty country compared to the filth that's plays these days.
Yeah, the genres I love to hate. I never really was a heavy metal guy at all. And the 80s hair metal, oh my goodness gracious.
That was your thing or not your thing?
Not my thing. Disgusting. I love to hate it. All of it. Poison, Warrant, all those bands. Like, ugh. Yeah.
Def Leppard.
Yes. Pour Some Sugar on Me is maybe the worst rock song of all times.
Hot take. That's not a good take.
It's a hot take and the correct take.
Guns N' Roses.
Fine. They're more alternative rock, I think. They weren't metal.
Listeners, please come at Brody for these takes. Because
they're good takes. So is there anything you love? Oh, you said the modern country. Yeah. Are there any genres that here recently you've gotten into or that you're back into? Because I've got a couple things I was thinking about.
I've actually gotten back into the late 80s, early 90s country music. And I don't really know why, but for whatever reason, that's hitting pretty well. And so I've been listening to that. And I don't know. I've done this thing. And so listeners, feel free to send me. I've done this thing where I ask people, what are your top 3 songs that you're listening to at this moment that just make you happy? And I'm adding those to my playlist to see if they make me happy, because it says a lot about how I will interact with you as a human. Because some people have given me some songs that are hot garbage. They are terrible. I am judging them from afar. But then other people have given me songs and I think, well, that song really hits. I like it a lot.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you hot garbage. There's no music I give you that's hot garbage, ever.
Okay. That's a good story that you told.
It's a good story because it's a true story.
Yeah. Are there artists that you won't admit liking?
No, I don't think there is. I think some people would say, I really dig Taylor Swift's later stuff here. The last 3 or 4 records I've really, really liked. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. It's really good.
See, and I'm the flip opposite. I think I would say I really like Taylor Swift's early stuff. And the most recent stuff sounds like a Dave Matthews Band record where everything is the exact same.
Well, easy on Dave Matthews. Let's just start right there. You need to take a chill pill. But because Dave Matthews is fantastic, but that's fine. Man, I think this is why this podcast works, because you and I really have very different musical tastes.
It's true. I think there are artists that I would not have admitted that I enjoyed earlier in life, but I don't know that there's an artist that I won't admit liking now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think in high school I was running around going, Celine Dion, the bomb.
Christopher Cross and all that yacht rock I loved in the early 80s when I was a teenager, and I still love now.
You were getting out of cars and shutting the door, and then you were turning on and you're sailing, take me away. That's it. You just going, weren't you?
I was going. I mean,
you had hair and you were singing Christopher Cross.
Yeah. Yeah. I sang You're the Inspiration by Chicago at my 8th grade talent show. If that gives you any idea what I was, resorting people to or abuse, it was abuse, really, to be completely honest.
I would probably have a little trouble admitting I liked Michael McDonald.
He's fantastic.
That's about as all I can do.
New genres. I mean, I've said this before on this podcast. Like, I really discovered jazz during the pandemic, and it has, I think, really influenced what I enjoy now, even more than ever. Like, I'm paying attention a lot more to instrumentation and orchestration. And I have found that that's opened up music in lots of different ways. Like, I'm really into electronic dance music right now for whatever reason. And I think it's a lot of it's about the composition and the kind of the way that artists go about that. It's been really fun.
I did not have electronic dance music on the bingo card, but here we are.
Here we are.
Well, speaking of somebody that I know jams to electronic dance music more than anybody else in the world.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's bring on our guest, Stephanie Kraft-Terry. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
We are so glad to have Stephanie with us today. She is the newly named, not interim anything, so newly named director of the School of Life Sciences at the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa. And Stephanie, you have to fill them in. Why is this a little bit of a poke?
How we all met was the many years that I served as interim director of advising for the College of Natural Sciences here at UH Mānoa, which I believe I, over the summer, crested 9 years in that role before I moved on to a new and fun endeavor, right? So 9 years goes by fast. It's hard to believe it went that long, but there is now a new interim director, and he's going to do fantastic.
If you're an interim, and even if you do it for 9 years, are you held responsible for anything? Like, I think that should be like the get out of jail free card, right?
I never really thought about it like that.
I'm sorry.
I like built the unit. It didn't exist before I ran it. So I built it with college after a reorg that happened. And so I always kind of considered it like my office, but I mean, technically, had they ever posted the position, I would have needed to compete for the position with everybody else. So it would have been interesting. I would have welcomed the opportunity, but we'll never know.
Well, let's keep going with this introduction. I find this fascinating, and I'm not sure why we haven't really talked about this as much, but you've been at Mānoa for over 15 years, but you started as a postdoctoral researcher studying the effects of HIV-1 infection on the brain using MRI techniques. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So in a prior life, before I moved into advising, I did bench research, right? So my graduate degree was largely studying how HIV affects the cells. So protein changes that happen as a result of HIV infection. So I spent a lot of time in one of those, white suits with the gloves and the booties and everything, and the special facilities that keep all the germs inside and don't let them outside. And then when I finished my PhD, we moved to Hawaii so I could do a postdoc through the John A. Burns School of Medicine here. And that was all HIV related research that was all in a clinical setting. So working directly with humans that actually had HIV infection as opposed to like little cells in a plate somewhere. And I did that for about a year before we decided we really didn't want to leave Hawaii. And I looked for a position and found the faculty position I'm in now. And now I've been here 15 years. I'm counting.
Stephanie, you are our and this is probably not in release order because sometimes we record with somebody before the episode comes out and we move things around. But you are our 30th guest of the show, and I can promise you that you are the first person to do research of this kind that we've ever had on the show. So congratulations, you did.
I feel honored to hold that title.
Yes, you might be our first interim 9-year person too. We'd have to go back and do some research on that one.
I would hope I am the first and the last. It's always hard to be in that state of flux for so long. Yeah.
Bless you.
Well, you've moved into advising, and let's just talk about your role with NACADA. You're now on the board of directors. You've served as chair of your campus's Council of Academic Advisors. You've been a co-liaison for the NACADA Excellence in Academic Advising Project on your campus. You've published in the NACADA Clearinghouse and the NACADA Journal, and you've contributed chapters to Academic Advising Administration, the Essential Knowledge for 21st Century and Comprehensive Advising Training and Development best practices that deliver. Boy, that is a long title. And you've presented nationally on advising, assessment, curriculum development, collaborative change, proactive advising. You've chaired the Administrators Institute faculty. That is amazing.
I feel like I'm having my CV read to me right now. This is a little bit startling. Yes, I have done those things.
And before we get into knowing a little bit about you and your experience, I do want to say, from a NACADA standpoint, you are one of our leaders in the NACADA LEAD effort that's occurring this year at the annual conference. And so we have a lot of NACADA listeners that will be at the annual conference, and wanted to give you a second to just, for listeners who haven't heard about it, what is the actual LEAD track and how is it different from just attending the regular NACADA conference sessions?
Absolutely. Love to talk about that. So the LEAD track is an acronym. You know how we like acronyms in higher ed, right? So leadership, engagement, advancement, and development. And this really came out of, I think, a constant murmur that at annual conference, we need a location for leaders from their various campuses to come together and learn from each other, learn from their peers, from people that are going to help facilitate these fabulous sessions, and really think about how you can take the things you're learning back to your campus for implementation. This program, therefore, will bring together up to 150 people. There is a cap, right? So we can't go past that. And it will provide a space in which there will be specialized interactive sessions provided throughout the conference for you to learn from various experts in the field, learn from people that are attending, and think about applying that to your own circumstances back at your campus.
And I feel like there's a good energy for it. Part of the reason for recording this and having you release in the time frame that you will to be out there for public consumption is to get people to sign up for this. There's some good momentum going. I think folks are real energized and excited about it. All three of us on this call are facilitators within this group. Brody, you excited about it?
I am excited about it. One of the things that I think is always challenging when you attend a conference, maybe without this kind of focus, is there's maybe not an actual plan that you can go back with. And this track promises that folks leave with an actual leadership enhancement plan. Why do you think that matters, Stephanie, like versus just walking away with notes and good intentions?
You know, I think that's always the challenge, right? You go to a conference, you get really excited, you hear all these great presentations, you come back, you sit down at your desk, you open your email, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when you create an intentional space where hopefully you can put the email away, you can talk to the people, share the good things you're doing on your campus, get ideas from other people who are doing great things where they are, and then take conscious time while you're there to think about what are the problems you need to work on, what are the things that are going well, what are the things that need to be improved, what are suggestions and things you're learning from the people around you. It really gives you the opportunity to be intentional about taking that learning opportunity and applying it to your work. So when you come back, hopefully you've already fired off that email at the conference and said, hey, I met this person that's doing this great thing. Can we meet next week and we can talk about it, right? I think when you're going from 50-minute session to 50-minute session, you often don't give yourself the opportunity to process and say, okay, now what would I do with this? How can I bring this back and take that good work done somewhere else and see results on my own campus, right? So the intent behind it is really not to overwhelm with sessions. So each day is 2 sessions in the morning, 2 sessions in the afternoon, and then time within that space to continue networking and working with the various people attending.
Yeah, I love it that it doesn't mean that you have to attend everything by any means, but it does give you a real opportunity to hopefully keep a smaller cohort of folks that you're going to interact with and maybe grow a little bit with as well. We've all been to conferences. Brody, you and I and Matt Markin wrote a paper on this, or a non-published paper on this that we wrote that was getting into why the conference relationship matters so much. I think this is that opportunity too to connect in a different way, where you're going to get to interact in small groups and you're going to interact together. And you're likely to go to other sessions together and then hopefully connect for meals as well. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. The three of us, 5 previous guests of the pickup meeting are also facilitators. So that's kind of fun. There's some cool kids in the crowd. Y'all been listening to us.
Well, and I like that you keep referring to us all as facilitators, right? Because that's the thing, is that people aren't going to sit through us standing on the stage for an hour just over and over dumping a bunch of content, right? We're going to share those really key important pieces, and then we're going to work with the attendees on helping to build the things that they need, right? And I think that's what makes it a little different than the traditional conference experience, is the built-in time for you to actually work on the things that are important to you. So I'm really excited that we're all going to be there.
Yeah, I don't really want to call it an unsession, because that was a thing for a little while. But it is a very short, targeted, facilitated presentation on the topic, with then some work to get done amongst your small groups and the facilitators.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say, folks, if you're interested in this, go ahead and get registered and sign up as soon as possible. I think that it is going to get tight and things may fill up. You can find more information when you register for the conference, but also on the NACADA annual conference page, there is a lead session page that you could check out. And so, Stephanie, thanks for talking to us about it a little bit today as we move in to a little bit more about you.
Yes.
No problem. I have to pause though. Hold on. Okay. I just want to also say that I've been doing this in partnership with Dana Zahorik, and I just want to give her some credit, because really this actually was sort of her creation that she was kind enough to let me work with her on, because she was just a driving force in getting this sort of framework put in place. So I have to give her a shout out here, because she's done some fantastic work, and I feel just honored to be able to be along for the ride and support.
And how great is she? Like, come on.
Of course.
She's been everywhere in NACADA, all the spaces I've been in here recently, a machine, right? Like, just back in it.
Yeah. I think she's like a great example of former president who stays connected and just like keeps giving back to an organization that she feels really strongly about. So I like seeing all the good work she does.
And I would say she's 99% of the time right on. I'm reflecting back and gonna just jump off here a little bit. I had lunch with her last week, and that was pretty awesome. But then we went to a store and we're doing some shopping, and I was like, "Should I get this hat, Dana?" And she said, "You have to get this hat." And I didn't get the hat because it said Yippee-ki-yay on it. And she's like, "Where are you gonna wear that?" And I'm like, "Where am I not gonna wear this?" But she didn't want me to get that hat. So
you had to have gotten that hat.
I did not get it. I didn't want people coming up to me and doing the rest of the Bruce Willis line. That felt like it would be a really aggressive thing.
What a wonderful line.
Yeah. Anyway. Hey, so let's go back. Let's talk about the things you've built. 9 years as the sole director of an advising unit that you stood up yourself and really did. Walk us through what existed before you got there, and how did you get it to be what you wanted it to be and where it got to be in those 9 years that you had it?
Yeah, so, oh goodness, takes me way back. When I first started here, we had a much larger centralized advising unit called the Colleges of Arts and Sciences. And that unit serviced essentially 4 colleges that made up the Colleges of Arts and Sciences. And at a certain point, the deans made the decision that we were going to actually separate the 4 colleges, and the Colleges of Arts and Sciences wasn't going to be a thing anymore. And so what that meant, 4 separate, or in the end 3 separate advising units were stood up because of a merger on one end. And that led for an opportunity for the College of Natural Sciences to think about what they wanted to do that would be unique to their students. And I, at the time, was a major advisor in the Department of Biology. So we would do all of the help with, the major related coursework and all of that. And then when they had anything gen ed, paperwork, procedure oriented, they went off to that College of Arts and Sciences office, and we didn't really touch those things. And so this was sort of an opportunity to rethink how we did business. So as we saw the reorg coming, myself and my tiny team in the Department of Biology raised our hands and said, what if we took the responsibility for all of our life sciences students early? And we created essentially a one-stop shop. where now they didn't come to us for one thing and then take that paper and go to another office for another thing. And instead it allowed us to begin to A, learn about all those procedures that we weren't really involved in, and then B, figure out what are the obstacles that we have artificially created and how can we get rid of them? Why am I handwriting out the courses that are remaining in a system where we can all see them and then asking someone else to go sign off on them, right? So we just got to get rid of all of the bureaucracy that was so historic, right? So that was the first step into the water there. And then through time and a lot of other things that happened, we arose at a situation where the rest of the natural sciences students needed a home. And at the time, the associate dean and dean approached and said, could you temporarily help us to establish this new unit and get it running? We had some new hires coming in. They were going to need some help and support, so they weren't coming into an office that essentially had not existed previously. And so my little team and I said, sure, why not? And we came together and just began to look at what can we do, again, to sort of make best use of limited resources and to make things as simple as possible for the students. So that also then allowed me to build some really good bridges with the faculty advisors that were in the other units. And so, we established simple things like monthly meetings with all the faculty advisors that we call our College of Natural Sciences advising meetings. And it was really, it sounds crazy to say, but it was the first time that we had regular conversations with the other department advisors about what was happening. So it allowed us to say, hey, math department, we noticed we never have enough seats in this certain class for our majors. And they were like, oh, we could do more, right? And hey, the chemistry department, can you tell us more about the ways you administer your placement exams? And they could help us, right? And so it really created, I think, a nice synergy in the college to begin to think about how we serve the students together, and we became more connected. And so in this instance, becoming a little less centralized allowed us to focus on our college specifically and those students' needs and try to, again, eliminate the artificial barriers. So,
wow,
it was fun.
It seems counterintuitive, but my question to add on to that is, can you think about a decision you made because the data told you something that you didn't expect with the change of this model?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think, I'm trying to think. Because we like to talk about using data a lot, and it has driven a lot of what we've done. I mean, even down to simple things. I'm trying to think. Most recently, post-COVID, which isn't even that recent anymore, right? We had always offered some form of virtual advising. It was never very popular pre-COVID. Post-COVID, it was very popular, and we sort of had moved into this rhythm of saying students don't want to see us in person anymore. But when I actually started digging into the data of the appointments, what we realized is it looked that way because everyone had hybrid work schedules. And so it looked like students really didn't want to see us in person. But when we started dissecting out the days that people are actually in office, we're almost at 50-50 now, whether students in person or virtual, right? Yeah. And that little bit of data has been a challenging piece to chew on, right? Because in the one sense, I think allowing people to have that flexible work schedule can be really helpful, right? We have horrific traffic here. Not needing to do that 1 or 2 days a week is fantastic, right? But it's a trade-off, right? It means that we may not actually be available to the students in the way they're looking for at the times they want to be, right? And so some of that has led to conversations in the office that helped us to say, well, maybe we're only all going to take 1 day work from home right now. And that way everyone can have a day of flexibility, but we're still really focusing on our primary goal, which is serving students where they need us. And it seems that the trend has been gradually back more in person with every cohort of students coming in. Right?
Yeah, that's a great example. And it's also something we're still tackling where we are. And we're primarily residential campus in the first couple of years. So it's good that you've been tracking it in that way. That's exactly the way that we approach that. So I think that's good. That's good. That's good work by your folks to kind of think about it that way.
The other thing you said that I think if you're not a higher ed person and you're listening to this, you maybe have a moment of pause where you were talking about the gains that occurred from this work that you've been doing. And it's, well, we started to talk to this department and that department to really learn about the things that were going on. And that shouldn't be rocket science. But
No.
sometimes it feels harder than rocket science. And that's insane. But that's, higher education has this real issue of silos, and it causes us some serious angst.
Well, and I think, we're all like various sized institutions, but the larger the institution gets, each individual unit is sized enough that to even just have good communication within that one unit is actually pretty complex, right? And then when you layer in needing to talk to all these other units that largely function autonomously, but are in some way lightly interconnected, right? It's weird from the outside to think about how siloed it can become, but I think when you're living in it, it's just part of the day-to-day, right, is not a natural overlap in talking to all of these other people. I think that what you find when you do bring everyone together, though, is 99% of the time people want that interaction, right? They're happy to have it.
Absolutely.
They're open to the conversation, right? So I do always try to remind myself, like, before we write it off and say, oh, well, that place has always done it this way, we probably just need to say, like, hey, are you open to coffee? I love to invite people to coffee.
Yeah.
Because I just love to have a casual conversation about the way we're doing business and whether or not there are opportunities for synergy between the things that we're doing, right? And people are largely very open to the ideas. Sometimes they're just unaware there's a problem or unaware that we would be open to the conversation, right? And so just building those bridges constantly, I think, makes everyone a stronger leader, right? But has definitely helped me to better understand everyone's perspectives and then how we can work together to do better work for our students, right?
Yeah. Yeah, good. Everybody's doing good work, and when you intersect that work, you get better work, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's what happens. Like those parallel lines. It's kind of removing those parallel lines, crossing them over. Yeah, that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about NACADA, the EAA project, and kind of a national view from an advising perspective. I think you're in a really unique situation because you're currently on the board of directors of NACADA, but you've also served as a co-liaison for the Excellence in Academic Advising Project on your own campus. So I think that's a rare view, both from the national board level and from the ground, trying to actually implement the standard locally. What's a gap that you see most often between what research says advising should look like and what's actually happening on campuses?
I think the thing that comes out very first is often the discussion of advising ratios, right? So there's a number of different venues that have published, suggested ratios, average ratios. So how many students for every advisor, depending on the position type, right? And what I think you see on the ground when you really look at it is that proverbial phrase, it's complicated, right? That, for a number of reasons, these sort of suggested ratios don't exist. Some units appear better resourced on paper than others. Sometimes, though, that's the nature of what work they're actually doing. And so I think that becomes sort of a central element of conversation. But when you really begin to look at what everyone's doing, that's what the EAA project showed our campus, and I think many campuses, is that a lot of times we were not combined on a common mission, vision, and goals for advising on the campus, which then makes it really hard to inform pretty much all later conversations, right? So it's really hard to talk about what advisors should be doing and what an advising pay scale and ladder should look like and what advisor training and development should be if, as a campus, you don't actually have a definition for what advising even is and what it should be accomplishing, right? And so that was the common theme. We were the inaugural cohort. Our campus was in the inaugural cohort for the EAA process, but that was not unique to our campus. Many of the campuses actually had to step back and had to build the foundational elements so that you could then have continued conversation tying back to mission, vision, learning outcomes. And what you'll see is a lot of us that are decentralized, like I have mission, vision, and learning outcomes for my college. others have for theirs, but as a campus, we did not have, right? And so when you go through the exercise of actually talking about those things, suddenly you're like, oh, actually, a lot of our offices are asked to do a lot of things that we're not defining as advising, but are part of our job duties or part of the things our departments have been asked to do over the years, right?
Yeah.
And then that leads to a conversation about how many advisors do you need if you're also participating in recruitment and participating in other retention-centered activities. And a new one for our campus, everyone participating in new student orientation, right? And those are really specific skill sets. And maybe when you're looking at your advising career ladder, you actually have to incorporate those things if those are seen to be functions of advising. And if they're not, then what does that mean for the structure of student support on your campus?
I'm curious if you think that your role as a NACADA consultant and your role with being faculty in the Assessment and Administrators Institute, do you, in those opportunities, do you see similar levels of they're not doing that as a whole, or do you see other trends that are there that just make you want to say, come on, folks, do this, please, it'll make it better?
I mean, I think, across the board, what you see is a lot of people that care a lot, that are doing what they can with the resources they have. And there hasn't often been sort of the time or the resources to step back and say, if I was to build this from scratch, like, what would this look like? Because what we end up with is a lot of systems and procedures and stuff in place that make sense to piece all the different things you have together to function. But if someone was to come in from the outside, they would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? And then you have to give them the 15 or 20-year history of how you got to where you are. But the reality is, the pain of tearing it all apart and starting over is sometimes so much that no one wants to do it. But I think what we actually need to do is be able to kind of question everything we're doing and why we do it that way. Because if you were to go in and start from scratch, I think many times we wouldn't. And I think what that comes down to, and we haven't talked about it all, is technology, right? Like, so much of what we do ties into technology, and the technologies that we have for advisors are abundant, right? I've now written into my minimum qualifications for advising positions that they have to have a certain amount of technological understanding and background, because there's just so much, right? And so many different things, and you need to pop between all the different platforms. And when I started even 14 years ago in the field of advising, we were definitely using technology, but for us, it was still a mix of a lot of paper, physical paper, right? Yeah. That's all gone. But with that has been replaced an abundance of systems that can feel, I think, overwhelming. And that's not unique, right? A lot of institutions have that challenge still.
And you mentioned the investment part of it. I'm curious on the flip side of that, and maybe technology is the answer. Brody, you may have thoughts on this too. I mean, kind of just hitting some issues here that I know we face. But if you had to name the one thing campuses constantly underinvest in when it comes to advising, what would it be? Technology training? I mean, it's one of those that was hitting my mind before you said that in your last answer, but I'm guessing there's probably a couple others there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think technology training definitely, but it's not so much like, click here and then click there. Right. It's a bit of like, how are we going to take this suite of technology that we have and use it to its fullest to benefit the students and benefit us as the people using it, right? So for example, we've recently moved on to EAB Navigate 360, right? And it has a lot of features that our systems previously didn't have. Yep. And it has some features that are lacking that our system used to have, right? And I think that we're still mourning the loss of some of the features that we were used to having for so many years, but we haven't seized the moment to embrace new features that might help in other areas, right? And so we can see a bit more of a win. Instead, it just feels like a lot of change. And I think that if we had a little more support to help understand, like, big picture, where can we go with this? How can it help us? What are ways that make this tool really exciting? right? Or how can this tool talk to all the other tools we also are learning how to use, right? I think that's when it makes it less of kind of a going through the implementation process and instead like getting excited about new stuff. Because I think if you're not excited about it, it's a lot harder to kind of jump in and learn all the pieces.
I think the other thing, and we've seen this with AI too, is kind of thinking about this tech as a way to rehumanize our discussions with students in many ways, not as a replacement for the work that advisors do, but rather enhancement for advisors to have more meaningful discussions with students. I think that's the other piece with technology training that we're sometimes missing is this tool's awesome and it's going to help you do this, but it's the other reason it's important is because it allows you to now have more meaningful conversations with students or to save time on this piece.
Absolutely. We invest quite a bit of time as advisors in training our students how to use our registration and degree audit system in their first few appointments. And we do that specifically so that later when we meet with you, we're not explaining why you're getting a prereq error. Yes. And you're not explaining how do I check how many credits I have remaining, but instead we're having much more exciting conversations about how to help you get engaged and ways in which you can conduct research related to your fields you want to go into and things like that, which is a better use of advisors' time. It's a much more fruitful conversation for you to have on a daily basis than, why it is that you have a hold on your account or something, right? And so we're trying to educate students about those pieces so you can have the fun and enriching conversations, which is, I think, mutually beneficial, right, for the student and the advisor. And AI is a whole new world that I'm kind of excited to see how it changes our profession, because a lot of those basic questions will eventually be answered correctly, right, without needing to talk to us, right? But my hope is the students still see that they should come to us for, again, these higher level conversations, right? That advisors are a lot more than just, why can't I get into this class, right? And instead really having these developmental conversations.
Yeah.
The number of times I've heard people say, AI is going to do this and AI is going to do that. And the number of folks that say, well, my university's website is not super great, and so it's not going to be helpful on our end. If we could all just commit to not having great university websites, I feel like we're solving the problem, right? We don't ever have to worry about job security. We're set.
Kevin, come on. Is that really a problem? I mean, every college and university website's amazing.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, let's just be perfectly clear.
Uh-huh.
But I would argue, even if your website's not amazing, like you have the skills to train up and create an AI assistant that can give accurate information, right? Even if you're not in control of all pieces, right? I don't wear a hat where I control every piece of the campus. But, I think a lot of the new federal guidelines and stuff, at least for US-based advisors, are becoming so complicated, but so I think important for students to understand where they sit within all of those rules, that I think having really clear and accurate answers on that kind of stuff is going to become increasingly important. And so either the advisors have to be trained exceptionally well, or you're going to need good resources available to students where they can truly know the answer, because running out of financial aid or not finishing your degree program before your visa expires, right? Those are really serious things. And so while, I've always struggled with not wanting advisors to be tasked with knowing every single detail of financial aid, because it's not their technical responsibility, I think it's becoming more and more important that they have to know those pieces, or we have to have really good resources somewhere to send the students to, because it's really critical for finishing their programs.
Yeah, and I've been talking about AI a lot, and the one thing I'd say too is this tech can be scary, and our reliance on this tech can be scary. And I do think that there are potential bad actors in colleges, universities who believe that AI could replace advising. But I'm gonna stake my claim to the decades of research that suggests that students still report, right, the meaningful relationships with faculty and staff as the most one of the most important parts of their undergraduate experience. And then as long as we continue to work hard to create human connection with the students that we're serving, AI is going to only enhance and not replace.
We have a mandatory advising requirement for our campus for all freshmen and sophomore students. And so a few colleagues and I put together a campus-wide survey and sent it out to students to begin to understand how they've experienced advising. Because we're a really decentralized campus, there's many different ways that advising can be completed. There's sort of different rules about how frequently they need to do it, whether they meet with a person or not, like all sorts of things. And we just looked for student feedback on what they did do, why they did it, whether they learned from it, those types of things. And one of the comments that we got from a student was, "I don't know why we need mandatory advising. We all have AI." Right?
Yep.
And that sort of led me to flip the question to my team and say, what makes you better than AI when you're meeting with your students?
Yes.
Right? And if you can't answer that question, that would be a problem. Right? And if you can, then I think that's where you understand how you can be a really great human element. And so, yes, we need to know our information. It needs to be factually accurate and all of that. But just being able to spout off the degree requirements from memory does not inherently make you a good advisor, but it means you have a good foundational knowledge to be able to help in other ways, right?
Well, with that answer, that's it for the pickup meeting. That was fantastic. It can't get better than that one.
It is one of the 3 core competencies, the informational piece, right? Like we should be knowledgeable, but
Right. But it's one of 3, right? Because
one of 3.
Knowledge alone is not it, right?
It's not it.
Yeah.
Gosh dang, that was a good one. I feel like that was a good one.
We had fun.
So Stephanie,
Yes.
you moved into this new role after 9 years of building and running an advising shop. And what made you say yes to that move? And then I'm curious what you've already seen transfer from a skill set of what you were doing. And then on the flip side, you're a couple weeks into this, what's completely different than maybe what you expected?
Yeah. That's a good question. So what I didn't explain earlier is that from the time I started in my sort of professional career at the university, I've been a faculty member. And the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa specifically had a faculty classification called specialist faculty. And those are people with sort of special jobs that don't look like a typical instructional or research faculty member, but warrant being a tenure track faculty member. So you go through all of the tenure and promotion process, just like any other faculty member. You're expected to contribute scholarly. You're expected to have sort of, they call them direct client services. So for me, that was advising and later administration of advising. And we also have to participate in service, which is why I am encouraged to participate in things like NACADA and service outside of my own campus. And all of that has meant that I have had a locus of tenure in the Department of Biology, which later merged to become the School of Life Sciences, this whole time, even when I was director or interim director of advising for the College of Natural Sciences. And so that means I've been serving on curriculum committees and assessment committees and hiring committees and all sorts of things with the department that whole time. And I think what we learned really early on was deeply seeing how the curriculum plays out with the students made my position, no matter who was to be in it later, integral to being on the curriculum committee and the assessment committees and things like that, because you had not only a deep knowledge of how all the pieces fit together, but how the students were actually experiencing it. Things we were hearing, we could get ahead of possible problems we were seeing or try to make things better from those things. And all of that, I think, helped me to better understand also how the university functions, right? So I think all of us advisors and advising administrators, especially, I think you typically end up building really good relationships all across campus to do your work well, right? So you know the scheduling office well, you know the registrar's office, you know financial aid, you know admissions, right? And you need those things in order to be, I think, the best service to your students. But that means I bring all those relationships with me now in this current role where I feel like my job is really to support my School of Life Sciences broadly. So we have about 34 faculty, a great administrative team for everything from, fiscal to class scheduling, all those things. We bring on about 70 or so TAs every semester to service all of our teaching labs and stuff. And my job, or the way I see my job, is now to help all of that work the best it can, to serve our students, to serve the people that are working to serve the students. And also the other part that I now get to be involved in, I think a lot more heavily, is the research mission of our campus, right? We're an R1 institution, so research is really central to our faculty's jobs. And that's why even as a specialist faculty, I was expected to publish or present and to contribute scholarly within my field of study, right, which was advising at the time. And so now it's my job to be sure that our school has everything it needs to do the very best that it can in those areas and recruit really high quality faculty to come in and be excited to be part of what we're building, right? So I think that's all very new. I've been in the role for a week now. And so beyond earning an office with a window, which has been nice, I think really what I am learning is budgeting is a very important skill.
It is.
I think understanding how budgets work, right? And I'm sure for both of you, you have worked in larger and more complex situations than I was previously in. And so I've got a great team of people that understand the financial end of our world very well, and they're quickly teaching me, because you have to understand your budget and its limitations or its opportunities in order to be able to best leverage the resources you do have to do the best quality work you can do, right? And so I think that's the piece that I knew it, but actually living it and seeing it, you just realize all the moving pieces are quite complicated.
Yeah.
Maybe one more question before we hit the lightning round. And I know it's weird to ask about what's next, maybe while you're 1 week into a role, but even thinking about NACADA or the broader arc of your career, are there mountains you're still trying to climb, right? Things you're still wanting to get done in your career?
I mean, yeah, I feel like I have many years to go still. So I think within NACADA, I am on the board of directors. I'm actually incoming vice president for the next year. And so I'm excited because I'm going to get to work more closely with the NACADA Council, which will be new to me, and sort of see that side of NACADA. And I think in general, NACADA has been my professional home for 14 years now, right? And I have gone to a few other events with other organizations, but NACADA has been my consistent one. Yeah. And so I feel like it's my sort of job as someone that's been part of the organization for 14 years now to try to help and give back where I can, right? And I think finding additional ways for administrators to have a home in NACADA has been sort of a pet project of mine. The Administrators Institute, when I was first starting off, was really an integral part of my personal development as I learned how to work with a team, with staff, and support them in an appropriate way. And so I'm constantly looking for new ways that we can do that, because I don't want anyone to think that they've outgrown NACADA. I want NACADA to grow with people, right? So that's where the NACADA LEAD comes in, and the Administrators Institute, and I also work with the Assessment Institute, which I think similarly helps people really to grow and build their skill set for application back where they are. And so I want to just keep doing those things for as long as NACADA and others want me there. Within my own institution, I think with the rate in which higher education sort of moves, which for us always feels a bit glacial, I think I have hopefully many years that I can be here to help the school continue to grow and develop and do new and exciting things. Hawaii is a really interesting and exciting place to study the life sciences. And I think the more we can do to engage locally here and exciting people about learning here, I think is a really neat and exciting opportunity. So that's where I want to focus my time, is supporting people doing that.
I'm glad NACADA's meant the same things to you as it's meant to me. And I always feel so lucky to have such great friends and colleagues across the world, but we got connected pretty much through the Administrators Institute, and I've just loved presenting with you and being a part of that. So here's to NACADA and more involvement with the fun stuff like LEAD and the Administrators Institute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've all presented together at the Administrators Institute at this point, and that's been really fun.
Yeah. Kevin, are you ready for the what?
It's time. It's lightning round time.
It is.
Lightning round.
All right.
Well, so I'm going to start lightning round off. Stephanie, you've got to pick between social bases of power and telling story with data. Which session are you doing?
Telling stories with data in order to embrace your social basis of power.
That's
man, what a great response.
Ridiculous.
Should I ask who am I presenting with?
It's Brody. It's not me anymore. Not after that answer. I'm done.
What's one word your team would use to describe your leadership style, Stephanie?
Oh, I would love to ask them that question myself. I would hope they would say enthusiastic.
That's
like
great.
Always embracing new ideas and change, maybe to my detriment, but
okay.
What is one higher education buzzword you'd ban from every strategic plan, meeting, committee forever?
Oh, goodness. I don't know why that's a question that's going to stump me. You know, it's funny, maybe it's a phrase and it's not so much that I would ban it, but I think it almost becomes meaningless as student success, right? Like, you know, a lot of people will push back and say, what does that mean, right? And I think oftentimes we use that almost as a filler instead of being more specific. And so by banning, it would force us all to have to be a bit more thoughtful about what we're trying to say.
Brody, what would yours be? I'm curious.
God. I think.
See, it's hard. You should have to answer this too.
I think mine's downline. People that say downline
is terrible.
I think that's a really derogatory term. Like, stop it.
I think out of context words like retention and student success are really dangerous. You know, we're all responsible for retention. And so I think sometimes, you know, I've said this before on this podcast. Now I'm answering the question, Kevin. You asked me to answer the question. I think sometimes like we think that only advisors are responsible for retention, and they're not, right?
Yeah.
And so when the president comes to you or the provost comes to you and says, why was retention down 2 points? I'm like, well, have you talked to the English 101 faculty or the Com 110 faculty or the math faculty? Because they're just as big a part of retention as I am as the director of University College. So, and I'm not even speaking in real terms here. I'm just saying, even hypothetically, those are the kinds of ways that you might think about it at any institution.
I would have also accepted deep dive.
Oh, that's good. Can I ask a question?
Yes, you should do that on the show that you're the co-host.
So I want to talk about, like, you're driving your kids everywhere. You're an unpaid Uber driver. What's the best or worst conversation that's happened in the car this year?
You know, the best, my daughter would strangle me, I think, for giving an example of her. But the best was just the other day when she got in the car and was like so genuinely excited to tell me about what a great day she had had because AP US history is super exciting to her. And I was like, this is great, right? And I think we always joke with our kids like, oh my gosh, all we're doing is driving you around everywhere. But it is those like 15 or 20 minutes where you just get undivided time. And that piece is really awesome. Worst though is just, again, Hawaii traffic, man, it's rough. Like you don't get to go anywhere fast in the peak hours of the day. And so while yes, I cherish time with my children, sometimes you also need to like get somewhere in time for another meeting or something. And the world does not agree with me on that.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
You bake and hit the gym 4 days a week. I think you bake sometimes and hit the gym 4 days a week. I don't know that you're baking 4 days a week. But
I wish I could bake 4 days a week.
Right. Does one of those cancel each other out, or is that just the actual balance of things?
You know, the science of it tells me that no. You're not supposed to go to the gym enough to make up for your eating habits. But God, I love to bake. In fact, the busier that I am, the more I would find myself baking when I shouldn't be. But that, I don't know, if food was a love language, baking would be my way of showing people that I care. And so I actually just had a fantastic time. My team, that's not my team anymore, we were small and mighty. They always tease me like, oh, you got to teach me how to make this. You got to teach me how to make that. And so on the last day of working with them, they all came over to my house and I set up baking stations, and I taught them how to make their most requested things. So we, in a whole afternoon on a weekend, made cinnamon rolls and scones and cookies and all these things together. And I just taught them my tips and tricks. And it was an absolute blast, like to share something that I really love with them, and have them, moan and groan when they killed their yeast or whatever, but also to be really excited and realize like, oh, we could do this too. And I was like, perfect, I'm gone. Now you can all make your favorite treats, and I have fulfilled all of my duties now.
That is fantastic.
I love it.
So if I'm coming to Hawaii as a tourist, what's one thing I need to do and one thing I should not do?
I think you should visit the Bishop Museum. Can I give you two things? I'd also visit the Iolani Palace. I think both are just really interesting to learn some of the history of Hawaii and have a better sense of understanding of place. And they're also just really intriguing, like both, with Bishop Museum, I've done some partnership projects with them and had some grants with them on the science end, but they have so much on the culture end as well. And so it's just a really, really neat place with a lot of interesting history. As far as what not to do, just like, respect the space you're in, right? Like, treat the spaces nice. I think a lot of people, when they're on vacation, they forget that they're in somebody else's home, right? Sure. Like, and they just lose all sense of common sense, So, just don't forget, like, just because you're in, Waikiki or whatever, there's actually a lot of people that live there too, right? So, like, just remember that, you're in someone else's backyard.
Absolutely.
I think this is my last one. And if you've been listening recently, I really think maybe since the Karen art episode earlier this summer, we talked a lot about walk-up songs. And so if your career had a walk-up song, what would you say it is?
I was really afraid you guys were going to ask me a music-related question because I am so bad with music. I was like, please don't. Oh, goodness.
I know. We should have to answer the lightning round questions, Brody.
I know. I feel like you should give people this one in advance so you can like really think deeply about what it would be.
We can totally pivot. I have an easier one. Here we go. Coffee, tea, or something else to get you through your Monday.
Oh, definitely Coca-Cola, but it shouldn't be. Going back to I go to the gym 4 days a week really knocks all that out. Yeah. But I'm trying to honor your interest in music. I don't know. So I, growing up, have always been a big Cher fan.
Oh.
And I feel like, I don't know, what is it called? Believe, right?
That's
one of her more recent songs. It's just so catchy and fun, right?
Yes.
Like that would be a fun one for me. That comes to mind quickly.
That's a fantastic answer, right? You didn't just, you delayed, but it ended up, the payoff was massive.
I appreciate the kudos. Yeah. I feel like my music knowledge is quite limited compared to both of yours, but I'll take it.
It's a win.
Well, Stephanie, thanks so much for being on the show with us tonight. It's been great having you. It's always good to have a good friend on the show. I know we talk to a lot of different folks, but these always feel a little special to get a chance to kind of talk to our friends and colleagues and put that on the air. So we really appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate the invite. I'm excited to finally be here. I've been listening to all your great guests, and I was a little worried if I was going to be able to stack up. So fun to do it.
Yeah.
You did great. Thank you, Stephanie.
See you, Stephanie.
Bye.
You're not wrong. There are guests that we have and we're getting to know, and then there are guests that we've went through the Administrators Institute with for the last 5 years, and it's like they're your really great family members, really great friends. Stephanie is in that ballpark.
Yeah, it hits just a little bit different, doesn't it?
Yeah. And now that she's not able to chime in, I think we went through the whole show and didn't say Steph one time.
You just did it.
I know, but she's gone. It's okay now. We do this all the time, and we asked her preference, and we still screw it up. But Stephanie was wonderful.
Stephanie was wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah. It is wonderful. We're not knocking her out here. She is wonderful.
Yeah. So we have to do a top three.
We do. In our top three, it will say it stems from lately. I feel like there's been some lotteries that have been occurring that are reaching the $1 billion platform, the billion with a B platform. And so I don't really play the lottery, so this isn't going to happen. I'm not winning. But what are your top three purchases you would make tomorrow if you won the lottery? I'm going to let you have the number one pick here.
Yeah, so I want to be selfless here first. Like, I think about all the people that have gotten me to the point where I am, like those family members and friends, and I just think if I win $1 billion, the first thing I'm doing is finding ways to ensure that none of those folks need to want for anything, whether that's college education for my nieces and nephews, or making sure the houses are paid for all my brothers and for my mom, for my in-laws, right? Like I think all of that is stuff that I'm going to make sure happens first. So that's my number one.
Dang,
it's not a purchase, but it's going to happen.
I'm going to check my notes. You stole my number one too.
Did I really?
No. Yeah, it's what it says in the notes right there. So my number one.
No, you were pretty selfish here. I'm looking at your notes. You actually wrote your answers in advance. I'm like, I'm going to be much nicer than you, Kevin.
My number one is some platform, and I've talked about this before, some platform of private plane.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because if all of a sudden I'm able to go do things, time is a precious commodity. And I don't want to mess around with commercial flights anymore. Let's do a private plane of some sort and get to where I'm going.
That sounds amazing.
The most recent episode of Ted Lasso that just came out, at the end of the episode, spoiler alert, she says, "I own the plane, Ted."
Yeah.
That's a pretty big flex. She wasn't yelling, but she was yelling.
She was. I agree. And it was pretty cool. That was pretty badass, to be completely honest.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for those that haven't chimed in and watched it yet. All right, your number two pick.
My number two is experience. I really, Catherine and I have been talking about going to Europe for a while and either doing a bike tour in certain areas, but I think we just find a way to spend a good chunk of time in Europe. I'm really interested in Eastern Europe, like Czechoslovakia, like Prague, Croatia. My new boss is from Croatia, and he's on a rampage to kind of get me thinking about Croatia, and now I am. And so we had a good friend that lived in Prague for quite a while, and she just talked great things about that city. So that Eastern European area, I think, is an area that I'd want to go. So I think a big vacation to Eastern Europe. How about you?
I like work a lot, but I like work a lot because of the numbers and the data and the relationships and putting puzzle pieces together. And so I think my number two would be buying into and having some oversight of a sports franchise.
That's awesome.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. You look at the Wrexham story and what they've done and that investment, and that would just be the coolest thing.
Which sports team would you buy in the United States, Kevin, if money was no object? Would it be the Vikings or the Cardinals?
I mean, if money was no object, I think it would be – if money was no object, I think it would be the Cardinals. Knowing that even if money was no object, I'd still be poorer than the Dodgers roster, I think I'm saying the Vikings.
Okay. That's fair and very sports specific. Very sports
It is, yeah.
I'm not going to steal yours because I think yours next one is you've put out in advance. I love records and I'm pretty simple as it relates to my gear. And I think, I would hire a professional to come in and find a way to give me the best audio setup that I possibly could have, whatever that would look like in the space that I'm living in. Very kind of singularly focused on making music sound great And then, just buying whatever records I want, which I kind of already do right now anyway. And I'm not a lottery winner, unfortunately. So I get into a little trouble for that, to be honest. But I think something like that would be my third choice.
I'm going to pivot, right? Because I put down, and I'm not a car person. So like, to me, it's fine. And I'm not like, a house is a house, but like experiences and things matter. So I'm a pivot similar to yours. I thought this might be where you're going. Is you're going to have a fair amount of cash on hand and money to do some things with. And it might be enough to have a jam session with some of your favorite people and just to sit and listen to them jam. Maybe you sing with some of your favorite people, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're good or not. You just have a good time. You and Dave Matthews just chilling out.
You know who I'd call to come to my house, and it'd be Guster right away. And I'd pay them.
Thought you were saying it would be me, but
no.
Okay, yes.
You can't come to my house. Remember, you're allergic to cats.
Right. And by the way, for our audio listeners, you all missed that there was a cat that came across the screen. I was like, uh-oh, we're going full Mufasa again episode here. You were going to raise it up and do the thing. And I thought that was what was coming.
And it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Ezra behaved. He just really wanted to sit on my lap. He didn't really want to show himself today.
That's right. Hey, that's a good top 3.
It was a good top 3. I had a lot of fun. Well, gang, that does it for this edition of the Pickup Meeting. Until next time, I hope all your meetings, whether formal or pickup style, are as fun and as meaningful as this one. And until next time, gang, let's just do good and be nice. How about it? Oh, I've got to hit end recording.
I knew you weren't going to hit the music thing.